Life Management Science Labs would like to acknowledge that we live and produce this podcast on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. We'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of our listeners and our international colleagues. We'd like to pay our respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. Hey everyone, and welcome to Raising Parents, the Parenting Science Insights podcast, produced by Ella Massell, the Life Management Science Labs. We are champions of life management science, providing structured insights informed by science and inspired by practice on key aspects of conscious living. Each week, we bring you scientific and practical insights on each element with the expert knowledge of professionals in the field. I'm your host, Dina Sargeant. Let's get started. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode. Now, one of the biggest shifts in conversation has been on children's mental health. With family being a child's look into love and support, most can agree there's a lot of pressure to make sure your child sees nothing but smiles. However, it's been said that this type of view can also show a false reality into family and emotional life. Joining us today is licensed clinical mental health counselor. Now, with her background in education, she works alongside children, adolescents, parents, and educators to fulfill her mission to help transform their lives from the inside out. Dr. Raychelle Cassada Lohmann, thank you so much for joining me, Raychelle.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
How's your day going so far?
It's going great. I am in the evening part of my day. I believe you're in the morning part of yours.
Yes, it's not that early, which I'm really glad. Now, I think this is the first time that I've actually had a mental health counselor on the show. So I'm actually really excited to find out a little bit more as to what your work would usually entail.
Oh, wow. I have a couple of different things. I call them my honeypots because I enjoy the profession that I chose in life, counseling. And one of the things I do is actually teach at the university setting.
Mhm.
So I teach students at the master's level for clinical mental health counseling. And I also work in a private practice. And in that practice, I really focus on trauma and
Mhm.
working with young adults and adolescents. And I am a EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization reprocessing therapy certified therapist.
Okay.
So I really enjoy working and understanding the complexities of the experiences people have in lives and what's happened to them in their lives that has affected them and their ability to cope and function
Okay.
in healthy ways.
So when it comes to helping parents sort of understand, what is your usual role in sort of helping them understand the child's needs and also what mental health is? Because there's a whole vast sort of definition as to what mental health is, especially as we're sort of understanding the different types of mental health that sort of occur.
Yeah, Tina. I think the big first part of it is really getting the school systems and other public organization and institutions involved in helping educate the public as to what mental health is and what it looks like and have these real conversations. Because oftentimes parents, if they don't heed the warning signs or maybe don't even see the warning signs, they might not seek the help that their child needs early in the game. And we know that the earlier that we can get youth help, the more beneficial it will be and the more effective the treatment will be. However, it's usually not until it comes to, the I've lost my word here. It's hit the peak, is what I'm trying to say, of a crisis in a child's life that they seek the help that they need. So oftentimes, whenever youth come to me, they've already been experiencing a lot of symptoms, and it's affecting their ability to function academically, their peer relationships with their parents. And we're really in that mode of trying to get them to where things are just stable so we can begin to build some of the coping skills they need. So early intervention and psychoeducation from the prevention is needed.
That's such a great introduction into what we're going to be talking about today. And I think, well, I mean, we can all understand that this is going to be a loaded topic today. It's sort of understanding mental health from a child's perspective as well. I mean, we've just started to understand what it is, what it feels like from an adult's perspective, but sort of going deeper than that. And I would love to go even deeper with that today. But before we do, I love to get to know some of your interests and maybe some of your recommendations as well by hopefully playing a quick little icebreaker game to help us get started today.
Okay.
So, to first start off with, do you have a favorite book that you could share with us?
I do. I enjoy reading. Actually, I have to limit myself because I will spend so much time reading that other things that are pressing get neglected. But I was currently what I'm reading, I'm enjoying it. I was in the airport and I was just finished a presentation and I was in a sandwich shop having sandwich and looked on the shelf at the bookstore and there was a book there that really spoke to me and it was called Build the Life You Want, the Art of Science and the Art and Science of Getting Happier. And this book is actually very powerful. It is written by author C. Brooks. He is a professor out of Harvard University and Oprah Winfrey. So just a lot of good research supported anecdotes and examples of how we can live a more fulfilling, happier life with more life satisfaction.
Wow, that sounds like such a great read. It's definitely one of those books that you really have to step out of your own world to really just understand how you sort of see what being happier really means. Because I know everyone's definition of happy is very different. And the way that they see what makes them happy is also really different. So that seems like such a great way to simplify what being happy should be.
Yeah. It's not rocket science per se. It's just really finding things that are meaningful and doing more of it in our lives and enjoying the moments that we live in because we're constantly bombarded by information in the world we live and just trying to find silence. We're carrying around our phones all the time. We're constantly connected to work and just finding just a moment to be and be present and focus just on what we're currently doing and finding times to also celebrate our successes, big and small in life versus rushing off to the next thing that's on our agenda of things to do. And I think that really plays into a part of our mental health. There's been studies that show just spending 5 minutes a day focusing on gratitude can improve our life for that day by 10%. 5 minutes.
Wow.
Just starting the day with something to be grateful for. So I really think a lot of it goes into really having this mindset of being present and having beliefs within our abilities and ourselves and celebrating those as well and celebrating those accomplishments of our family, our friends. I think it's important that we just pause and be.
Yeah, I think we sort of forget that as well. I mean, especially in today's world where we're all about the hustle and all about just working constantly, we really forget how important it is to just exist for a little bit, just really savor. I mean, I speak to a lot of my friends, and because we're sort of starting out in our careers, we're sort of on the idea of, okay, we have to constantly keep working, and then when we retire, we'll get to really have luxury and really a lavish life in order for us to enjoy all the things that we've worked hard for. But also there's that fear of, okay, we get burnt out by the time we're 30, by the time we're 35, we're completely and utterly burnt out, that we're just sort of stuck in an emotionless life for a second. And I think we definitely forget how important it is to really balance the both of them. And I know that's a hard task. I mean, we're on the parenting podcast talking about parenting, and that whole idea of balancing being a parent, working, and taking time for yourself, it seems like the most impossible thing in the world.
Yes. Uh, it may seem impossible, but just by taking those few minutes, especially for parents, because you're on all the time and you're not only coordinating your own life, but you're also coordinating the life of your family or of your children. And it's this go, go, go mentality. And looking forward to the future is fine, but you're missing out on the memories and the time that you've been given today. And I think that's really important for parents. Oftentimes give the analogy of when you're sitting on the plane, they go through all of the safety at the beginning and they tell you in the event that the oxygen mask drops down to be sure to put it on yourself first. And I think that comes in the form of self-care too. If we can't take care of ourselves, and I know I teach this in my classes to my students as well, if we don't take care of ourselves first, we're not going to be able to take care of others.
Mm-hmm.
So whether that looks like just going for a walk, getting up a few minutes extra before the kids get up in the morning and having that quiet cup of coffee or playing your favorite podcast or music, doing something that's intentional.
Mm-hmm.
I have so many parents that tell me that sometimes they'll just slip into their closet for a little bit of peace and just close the door and hide for just a few minutes, just to have that breather, that moment. And that is perfectly okay because we all need that place where we can just disappear to for a moment, take a breath, get grounded, and then go back out and face whatever we have to deal with.
Yeah, no, that is perfect advice. And I think that should be said for every parenting book, being like, if you need to take a step back, take a step back. So now when it comes to a movie, do you have a movie that you have recently watched that you would love to share?
One of my favorite movies is actually based on a book that I read called The Shack, and I watch it a couple of times every other year. I'll go back and revisit, and it's that time to watch that movie again. It was a powerful book. When I was thinking through some of these questions, I'm like, wow, I really like transformational type of literature because that book is about transformation and forgiveness. And it's a beautiful story about that journey of being able to have this level of forgiveness at, I don't want to give the book away by any stretch of the means, but it's a powerful book called The Shack. And then growing up, I also enjoyed Herman Hesse's book, Siddhartha, which is the journey of self-discovery and acceptance. So seems to be a pattern that I enjoyed the books from Build the Life You Want to Siddhartha to The Shack. Really enjoyed Brene Brown is one of my favorite authors. Really enjoy a lot of her work as well and appreciate what she's contributed to the world of research in the form of vulnerability.
Yes, no, I can definitely agree with Brene Brown. That Shack book movie sounds really interesting. So I'm going to have to definitely go and look at that and see a little bit more about it. But I love also, I'm there with you when it comes to the certain genre as well. I love either it's coming of age or it's the transformation. Your life starts out in the rough and it sort of builds up a little bit more. Whether it's fiction or nonfiction, that's definitely my type of genre as well. So I'm definitely there with you. Now, so when it comes to podcasts, do you have any podcasts that you would love to talk about?
Well, going back to Brene Brown, she actually has a podcast
Yeah.
called Unlocking Us. And that is one that I enjoy listening to while I'm doing some other work. It's just inspirational. It gets me to think about things differently. And I just appreciate the guests that she brings on and the insights that they provide.
Yes, no, I'm definitely there with the Unlocking Brene Brown, because that's honestly one of my favorite podcasts to listen to recently as well. I don't know what about it. Like, I love the way that she speaks. It's not in a way that's she's not rushing. She's not sort of forcing you to sort of have her way of thinking, but she's encouraging you to have your way of thinking within the paradigms of what she's wanting to talk about. And it's such an interesting way of allowing you to build your own concept for certain situations, but still sort of hearing what she has to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And she's relatable.
Yes.
Yeah,
Every story,
she's
I'm like,
relatable.
oh, I can understand that. So this comes into a role model that you may have. So either in personal life or professional life, is there someone that you find yourself looking up to?
I think it changes in different areas of my life that I'm in. Like when I think right now, my grandmother growing up was by far very influential on my life. But like right now, when I thought role model, I actually thought of my daughter. And my daughter right now is my role model. I've seen her set some high goals and just go straight towards them, and with a lot of grit and perseverance and a growth mindset and resilience. And I'm just watching that going, wow, that's admirable. And just how can I capture a little bit more of that in my own life? So right now, off the top of my head, I'm just watching what she is persevering to go and achieve in her own life is really inspiring.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that. I think it's amazing when we talk about what kids can learn from parents. You sort of forget what a lot of parents can learn from their children as well. And I think my mom and I always have that conversation as well. Like a lot of the stuff that career-wise, she's been a stay-at-home mom for majority of my life. And now that we're older, she's building up her own life and she's looking at going back into uni. She's looking at doing all that, but she's looking at how my sister and I have sort of managed working and going to uni and balance and doing that balancing act. So we always have those conversations and I always give her tips as well. So yeah, it's amazing sort of seeing how much it goes both ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can, especially as parents, as our children get older. I think one of the things that I like to share with parents is let go of the guilt. It's holding you back.
Mm-hmm.
Guilt of not having enough time, guilt of having to work and not make it to an event. It it doesn't really serve a purpose in effective parenting, the level of guilt that I see parents put on because they have this expectation of themselves or they want to do things differently with their
Mm-hmm.
children than their own experiences. So if there was one nugget of wisdom that I could give to parents is don't spend time in guilt. Go and do as much as you can, because from my experience, for the most part, the majority of parents are doing the best that they can do with what they have at the time. So that's been my experience with the vast majority of parents. There's no perfect book out there, as we were talking about books we've enjoyed reading. No perfect book out there that can tell you how to be a parent and what a good parent looks like. I guess in the end, your child will be the judge of whether or not you've been an effective parent.
Yes, no, it definitely says that. And I also tell that. So I have that conversation with my mom quite often about how the amount of pressure that she put on herself to always be there, to constantly be there, even though she's stay at home and she doesn't really have work or something to also build up, to also fill her time. But just the idea of, I'm glad that she's taken the time now in our adult life to really be 100% on herself, to be so focused on herself and push us to the back burner for a little bit, knowing that we'll still be there. And I wish that she did do that a whole lot sooner because you could see how much her life is sort of thriving on building that, and being there to watch it as well is insane, sort of just knowing how much she's achieved already in the year that she's done that for herself. So yeah, I think as long as parents, what I've understood about this show is like, as long as parents are there when they're needed to be there, that's the main point. But also the guilt thing is a big thing that we talk about on the show quite often as well.
Yeah. I actually went back to school for my doctorate when my children were younger. And I did carry some guilt around for that because it took a considerable amount of time. But now I hear what my children learned during that experience, like, to persevere, to go after their dreams, to set those ambitions high. And during that time where I'm like, oh, I didn't spend this time, or I didn't get to do that with them, they took something positive out of it. And so sometimes we don't know until in the future, those seeds or the things that they can do in their own lives, how those will flourish. So that's why I said there's really not a place for guilt in that parenting relationship. They're just, be present with your child, do what you can do, and know that you're doing the best that you can at the time. And then if there are things that you need to reflect on and change to make them better, or if you've got your own challenges and struggles that you need to take care of, then take care of them. Because our children will see us do that as well. So we're always on as parents. We're role models. We are always on, and our children are watching how we handle our own life challenges, how we set our own goals and achieve them, our drives, our ambitions, our being kind to one another. They watch us. They learn from us.
No, that's very true. Now, I hope you're all warmed up to answer the hard-hitting questions that we have coming up for us today. Now, I also know that everyone has a very different definition to what parenting is. So either from what you've understood it professionally or even how you've seen it personally, what would your definition of parenting be?
I think the scholars would agree that it is taking care of children, but I think beyond that, it is not only taking care of children, but it's also creating a nurturing environment for them to grow, thrive, and succeed to the best of our abilities. I don't think there is one clear cut other than taking care of children definition that we could fit into everyone. It's not like this perfect mold. We all have to figure it out based. Each person is different. Our children are different. They have unique personalities. You can have, I talk to so many parents and they'll start describing their children, and one will be on one spectrum and the other one will be on the other. Like, they're so different. We can have a challenging child. We can have a laid back child. We can have a child that we connect with because our interests are similar. We can have a child that marches to their beat of their own drum. And I think that's what makes parenting complex. But there are some key ingredients that are needed in parenting. And one is communication, relationship, like a caring and safe environment that our children can trust and thrive in. And I'm going to go a step further and say an environment which it's okay to fail.
Yep.
Because we need to create that sense of safety. So if we do fail, and we all fail in life, we all fail at something in life.
Yeah.
But creating that safe, secure environment where if you do, you're still loved, that whatever you didn't succeed at doesn't define who you are as a person. And then teaching them to dig deep and have that growth mindset and go after what they want in life. But I think we've got to cultivate those environments in our roles as parents, excuse me.
No, that's a very, very great way of sort of looking at it as well. Like, we prepare our child to succeed quite often, but we also don't prepare them for failing. And we see in a lot of I mean, we've seen a lot of TV shows as well, like the view of the parent also always wanting the child to succeed so well, and then they don't do well in one thing, and it's their whole world comes crashing down because something didn't go their way in that one moment, that they're needing to understand that it's okay to do that. And I think that's the thing that we forget. I mean, not just as parents, but as everyone itself as well. We're sort of forgetting that, okay, we have to also be prepared to not do well at something. We're also prepared to not excel at an area that we've been told that we're gonna succeed in, we're gonna excel in. And yeah, so there's so much that's such a great way of sort of looking at it as well. Now, talking about a little bit what we're here to talk about in the topic today, I know that there's a whole different areas that mental health is sort of focused on. One of them that we're looking into today is mainly depression. So, can you provide a little bit of a comprehensive understanding as to what depression would be?
hmm When we look at clinical depression, we're talking more than a case of the blues. We are talking about a, a feeling that people experience. It is a neurological, physiological, and mental response that people feel. And there may not be, I think there's the big myth out there is something might have triggered depression, but that's not how depression works. It is an illness, and it can come in waves, and it can severely affect a person's ability to function. They might withdraw. They may change eating habits. They may sleep a lot. They may not go to work and get in trouble with work. And there is treatment resistant depression, which is really hard to treat because people are at such a low that it is hard to implement, to even have the strength to get out of bed and put your feet on the floor in the morning. And I think when we think of depression, one, there might not be there's not a singular cause when we're talking about depression. So there might not be a triggering event. And two, it's an illness. So we need to understand it from that frame of reference that it is an illness. So it's beyond the blues. It's not just feeling sad. As a matter of fact, some of the symptoms of depression can come with frustration, irritability, and anger, particularly with adolescents. And it can really isolate. And that's why we're seeing spikes in depression and even anxiety. Anxiety and depression can go hand in hand. We're seeing spikes, particularly since COVID, in clinical mental health and what people are struggling with suicide, according to the World Health Organization, being the fourth leading cause of death. So in the world, and that's concerning as a clinician. And we've got to do more through intervention and prevention to get the word out and make sure that people have access to the support and the help that they need.
It's a scary thought of the fact that that's up there in the top 5 ways of people harming themselves, of people sort of dealing with mental health. And that's especially when it comes to how we're sort of understanding what depression is and what mental health is. That's still one of the ways that we're not really there to sort of help people understand what it is before it really hits hard, before it becomes too much for them to cope, too much for them to be helped. And that's, I don't know, just that statistic that you showed me, I'm a little bit in awe when you said that, because that's a scary, scary thought in this day and age where you think that it's become so common of a conversation, but still it's one of the biggest ways that an individual needs to find an out, needs to find a way to sort of just end it. And yeah, it's a very scary thought. So when particularly in parents as well? Because we talk about children going through depression. We sort of don't really mention a lot about parents going through depression while having a family, while with family to take care of. How does that kind of sense of depression influence the dynamic between a parent and a child?
Yeah. Well, it depends with the severity of the depression and the level of openness that the parent has about communicating with their
Mm-hmm.
child, and also the support that the parent has, whether it's their partner or other family members, whenever they're struggling with an episode of depression, that can come in and support them in parenting, and making sure that the parents are getting the clinical mental health that they need, to be able to cope and ride that wave of that episode that they're experiencing, however long it could go on for. I mean, it's not about, you know, fixing depression. It's about teaching people to live with depression, teaching people how to live with depression and understand the peaks and the valleys of depression, and
Mm-hmm.
be able to recognize and not fight the mental illness, but have a better understanding and know, okay, I'm aware that I'm going through this right now. So I need to call these supports in. I need to make sure that I'm seeing my counselor, my clinician more regularly. I need to make sure that I'm consistent. If I'm on a medication regimen, that I'm consistently taking this medication. I need to make sure that I can communicate with my child what's going on at an age appropriate level in which they would understand.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't look like I'm withdrawing from my child, that I'm not interested in my child, that I don't care about what they're doing, or that I don't even want to read them a bedtime story at night. But there's a reason behind this. And that conversation needs to happen, but there needs to be this awareness from the parent of what's occurring, because it
Mm-hmm.
can detrimentally affect a child if it's not communicated, expressed, and coped with.
Yeah, it's a big issue when we're sort of talking about the dynamic between a parent and a child, that withdrawal that sort of does take place. I mean, I personally have sort of experienced that from a child's perspective. And there was a whole 2 years where we were pretty much the caretaker for for the parent when they were unable to really just go through the everyday chores and everyday things. And it was also difficult at the fact that it was my first year of starting university as well. And my sister, she was the main caretaker, and she was only about 14 at the time. Luckily, she was homeschooled as well during that time, so she was still able to do that. But that was such a very difficult time of really trying to understand why she was going through this, why the parent was also trying to not want to be here, not want to be existing, not want to be present, doesn't really want to hear how your day is. It can be so scary to sort of see it as it was scary for me to sort of see it as well and understand, okay, she's going through something. I'm the older sibling. I have to sort of take over when it comes to cooking dinner, cooking when it comes to making sure that she's eating, when it comes to making sure laundry is done. And it was such a change in our dynamic as to who's going to take care of who and who's supposed to be taking care of who. And so my sister and I grew up very quickly at that point because there was so much to sort of build upon. There was so much to understand. And our lives sort of somehow had to be put on hold to be able to take care of her. And we couldn't ask my dad at that point because he was also working a full-time job and taking care of us financially to make sure that we were okay. So there's a huge change in the dynamic that sort of took place as to, okay, now I'm suddenly the mom. I'm making sure my sister does her homework. I'm making sure that all the house chores are done. And yeah, I can definitely understand the impact that it has on my relationship with my mom even now.
Yeah. And I think that's where it's understanding what you just talked about was very debilitating condition that your mother was experiencing. And when you put it in the eyes of a child who doesn't understand that, because you don't physically see something as wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that's what makes mental illness really hard, is you don't see there's a physical side to it like you would if maybe there was an illness or something.
Mm-hmm.
And for a child, that can be really difficult to see or even understand. And it sounds like you were at the time starting your college or university journey, and having to step back in to just make sure that your siblings' needs and the household was functioning. And I think that's important because oftentimes these children do have to grow up quick. And they just kind of step right in because it's survival at that point in time. And the whole dynamic within the family can just shift whenever there's mental illness present, and cause a lot of confusion. And even, for children, they can struggle academically because they're having to pick up those other roles. They might not be able to go and spend time with friends like they could in the past. And it could hurt some of those friendships. So,
yeah. I mean, if it's very different if the parent has a broken leg and can't walk for about a year, or is completely has a physical disability that sort of makes them unable to function. Because then as a child, you sort of see that and be like, okay, they can't do this, so I have to sort of take over. They can't go downstairs quickly, so I have to sort of help them go down the stairs. But when it's on the inside, when it's something that they're dealing with internally, you can't really understand, okay, but you can walk, you can get out of bed, you can take a shower, you can do all that stuff, you can move around. You sort of take that as, okay, but you look fine. Like you look, and I think that's what a lot of people as well, a lot of my extended family was sort of seeing it as well, and were like, but she looks fine. She's not unable to walk. She's talking. She's able to talk. She's able to get out of bed. And you don't really see it until it's like the very end of, okay, she's having to be on 3 different types of medication in order for her to function, in order for her to actually like exist for a few hours. So it's funny thing when you sort of, everyone sort of ends up comparing it to, but she looks okay.
yeah, I think the other thing with depression is silence is depression's best friend. So there usually isn't that communication, saying, listen, I feel like I've got weights attached to my whole body. So to get out of bed right now, I can't even lift my legs to put them on the other side of the bed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even, I'm numb. I'm empty. I can't even feel. And so, yes, I know I have children. Yes, I know I have a family. Yes, I love them, but I don't know what that feels like because I've disassociated with that because I'm so numb right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate feeling this way. Like you hear that, like people who struggle with depression, they don't like feeling that. They do anything to feel better. And unfortunately, sometimes they can't tolerate feeling the way that they feel. And that's what leads to those high statistics that we were talking about a moment ago. So how do we wrap that person in warmth and light and love and understanding? Because there's a lot of stereotypes out there when it comes to mental health, and depression included. And it understanding that it is an illness, that it is affecting them, that this is not a choice.
It's definitely not something that I could definitely see my mom live with that regret to this day, sort of being like, I wish that I was a bit more available. That I wish that I was a mom, not someone that you had to take care of, not a child that you had to watch. And yeah, it's a big thing to even open up about when I think about 10 years after going through that situation. It's still something that I can tell that she still feels. And it definitely has an effect on how she sort of is, as she's a lot more attentive as a parent now, knowing that that's how it was. But one of the things that I really would like to sort of understand when it comes to self-care, and I know we spoke about this a little bit earlier, but how can a parent sort of have that understanding that they need to take care of themselves, that they need to have that awareness of even having a list as to what makes them feel happy? How can they sort of go about creating that understanding of their own well-being?
I think it comes to awareness, and you have to be aware that you have to take time for you. You have to it has to be a conscious choice to intentionally put time in your day. And, a little bit ago, I said just 5 minutes, or whenever you're driving home from work, playing an Audible book, or listening to your favorite music, or turning everything off and just having silence in the car. Or whenever you pull into the driveway or the garage, cut the car off and just sit there for 5 minutes. Just give yourself time to take a deep breath, collect your thoughts before rushing off to go inside. These are little things that we can all do to improve our mental health that has been shown effective in research, just these small little things. And then also making sure that you have a support group to connect with. Parenting is hard. It is such a hard job, and nobody is ever fully prepared for it because, as we were talking, we have these unique personalities with our children. And I think acknowledging that it's hard and having these conversations that society doesn't like to tell us, right? We're supposed to have this picture storybook image of what a happy family should look like. I've been in this profession for many years, and I have yet to see that storybook come true.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a funny thing because when you talk about parenting, you sort of see it as constantly being you're no longer your own individual person. You're now just your parent. That's your role in life. That's the entire job. Your whole understanding of, okay, my name is, my name is Dina, for example. Suddenly the minute I become a parent, I'm like, I'm parent. I'm no longer known, I'm mom. I'm no longer known as Dina. There's no longer like that separation of who you are as a person. You're now, okay, that's your name. Your name is called by everyone. Your name is now mom. That's it. For the rest of your life, that's it. And it's funny when we sort of talk about the understanding of, okay, this is what a perfect family is supposed to look like, because a perfect family is everyone being themselves. But if you also think about it, the parent also gets that, should have that need to also be themselves as being a parent. Not just, okay, I'm a parent, I'm meant to make sure my children are themselves throughout it, but they lose themselves in the process. And it's a funny little situation where, okay, you're meant to be the best parent, but I'm also meant to be the best me throughout being a parent. It's not like I'm the best parent. I'm meant to be me throughout being a parent. And a lot of parents, I hear often from a lot of my mom's friends or a lot of my friends who have children as well, that they've lost themselves in being a parent. And
We see
it's
that.
funny like that.
Yeah, we see that even in the world of work as well. People, companies downsize, people lose their careers or their jobs. They've tied their identity into what they do, which can cause a spiral and depression as well, especially if you already struggle with depression. So we tie our identity to a lot of roles in life, which really it's a role. That's what it is. So being careful to make sure that we know as parents, kind of like setting up that environment where our children may not be successful and helping them adapt and develop healthy coping skills when life does throw them a curveball. We have to heed our own teachings as parents because we're not going to be perfect parents.
Yep.
And setting that as the gold star to strive towards. I wrote for Psychology Today, I wrote a blog many years ago, and it was called Perfectly Imperfect. And I
I
think
like the
just
title.
shifting our mindset, like
Yeah.
we're not perfect. We were never meant to be perfect. We are not going to succeed at everything.
Yeah.
We need to go out, sure, give it your all. But if things don't pan out in the long run, it doesn't mean you are a failure. It just means you weren't successful at that one thing. Whatever that, maybe you didn't pass that one thing, or maybe you failed at that one thing, but it does not define who you are as a person, doesn't define who you are as a parent. And I think that's important that we model that to our children as well, because the world is a challenging place to live. It's a wild adventure, and you don't know what to expect from one day to the next. And that's why we have to celebrate the good times, because whenever the tough ones come, it's the good ones. It's the memories, it's the friendships, it's the relationships with other people that's going to help us get through that. So instead of pulling against one another, as I see we do sometimes collectively, we need to lean in towards one another more, because we all are kind of going on this adventure together. We just go down different directions.
Yes. No, I completely agree with that. And I think having that support is just as important. And what's funny is you don't really know how everyone feels until you start to open up about your experience, and then everyone's like, okay, she's being honest about how it's going. I can definitely feel free to be honest about the fact that it's not working, that this idea of parenting isn't working for me, and I've had to sort of find another strategy around that, because no one feels like they're comfortable talking about it until one person starts opening up about it a bit more.
Yeah. And the same is true with mental health. The more we open up, we find that we have people within our circle of people that have experienced similar things. And that's where we have to learn to talk about more of our experiences, because we're not the only ones that go through things. We just, our social media shows the good sides of our lives. The storybook sometimes is what we show on social media. But many years in this profession, as I mentioned, and storybooks don't exist. We all just kind of do life together, and we have to learn to adapt and change and ride the storms out whenever they come. And also enjoy it when we're at the peaks of the mountains looking over the beautiful valleys, when we get there.
Mhm.
And I think doing life rather than fighting life is really important.
Yes. No, that's great advice. I think that's such a great way of just summing it up, of really making sure that parents feel like that their mental health is the first priority. And I think that's something that we've sort of forgotten when it comes to being there for children. We're sort of forgetting that, okay, I'm not feeling like I can be all and end all as a parent at the moment. I'm going to sort of balance it a little bit with what we like to do. And this leads us really well into the next part of our show, which is talking about a little bit about your own practice and habits that you sort of deal with to to manage a little bit more. Now, what is a practice that you do to build your own self-esteem or maybe a little bit of self-confidence when situations don't really go as you've sort of planned it out to be?
Yeah, I have this saying that a good friend of mine um, mentioned to me years ago, and it just stuck with me. And this wasn't her saying by any stretch of the means, but it's called "This too shall pass." And I will write that down. Sometimes it's like, whatever storm I'm in, I will get through this storm. It will pass. I might not know when it's going to pass, but it'll pass. And another thing I like to do, I call this my benchmark assessment. I think of something that I have achieved in life that was really difficult or a challenge for me.
Mhm.
And then I look at the mountain that I have in front of me and I'm like, if I can do that, then I can do this. And I use that as my benchmark and just encourage myself to dig deep and go after whatever it is I need to go after and know that if I fall on the journey, it's okay.
Mhm.
I've fallen before. I can get up. I can heal. And it might be hard, no matter whether it's a medical diagnosis, a loss of a loved one, or a change in jobs, or something, that has really changed my whole entire world. Have your supports, have your people.
Mhm.
They'll help you get through. And guess what? They're going to need you one day too to help them get through something. And I think that's the beauty of life. And as I'm hear more and more people's stories and I experience my own experiences, it's fighting it and trying to change everything or to be perfect. It's exhausting. It's tiring.
Yeah.
And we are more alike in our struggles than we are different. We just got to talk and communicate and connect with one another.
Mhm. No, that's such great advice. And even going back to what the quote that you mentioned a little bit before about "this too shall pass," I was sort of thinking about it. Like, it's funny the emphasis on the "to" as well. You forget, like, if you just made it "this shall pass," it doesn't have as bad of a hit as "this too," because it's just a reminder that we've dealt with stuff before that wasn't going our way and we've gotten through that. So this again that we're going through will pass again. And it's a huge emphasis on the "this too." Like, the fact that this is on our first rodeo. This isn't the first time we've dealt with something. This is another thing that we've had to deal with and find our way around, that we will find our way around anyway. So yeah, it's just an interesting sort of thought that I was thinking as you're sort of talking about it, because you sort of forget that this is another thing that we're just going to go through.
And another little thing I do is I have a planner, an
Mhm.
old fashioned planner. I have my electronic calendar too, but I like my old fashioned planner and I love inspirational quotes. So when I plan out my week, just kind of look at it. I find the inspirational quote that I'm feeling at the time, my stickers, and I'll stick it on my planner. Um, just the little things that can bring us joy or happiness. As we're talking, I have a candle going in the background and just makes me smile just to light my candle and enjoy the scent. And that is so important, to find just those little tiny things in life that can bring you that smile or that happiness, whether it's going and turning on whatever show you're streaming because you've had a long day and you're looking forward to watching that show, that next episode. And while you're watching it, just tell your mind, like, it's okay. I've, I, I can enjoy this guilt free. I
Yeah.
can enjoy this. The kids are in bed. This is my time. And I'm just going to totally not even fold clothes while I watch this. I'm totally going to be.
Yes. No. And it's funny because my favorite um, thing is touch. So everything I love to feel things. So when reading a book, it can't be electronic book. It has to be the physical book. When I'm Um, when I'm planning, I also have a physical planner because it's so much better than having everything online and just making sure your to-do list is checked out. I use stickers as well because if COVID's taught me anything, it's the fact that taking that 5 minutes a week to be able to do that is such a huge change in how I'm sort of dealing with the week. And it's interesting how you see stickers as being childish, like a lot of people do. But when you're using them, the amount that it makes you smile, the amount that it changes, elevates your entire way of still having that childlike mind in your head is so impactful.
Well, there's a lot of adult scrapbookers and they're putting stickers on everything.
Yeah.
So I just do it in my planner.
No, I do the scrapbook thing, but I only do it, I think, once every 6 months because then I can spend a whole day sort of doing it. But yeah, I think there are a lot of strategies that even I've learned of how to manage dealing with a hard day or dealing with things. So it's fun to be able to share that with others. And I think we forget amongst like doing things what we need to do, there also should be things that's usually in our wants to do, but should be in our needs to do as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Just notice how doing those little things make you feel.
Yes.
You know, we were talking and our whole face changed. We were smiling. You were thinking about your scrapbooking and your stickers. I was thinking about that little moment just was a break from everyday life. And it's things that we enjoy, and we need to focus on those little things. It doesn't have to be big. Little things that bring us joy, that helps us focus on caring for ourselves, because cycling all the way back to the oxygen mask, if we don't take the time to take care of ourselves, it's going to be really hard to take care of those that are dependent on us.
Mm-hmm. No, that is very, very true. And that oxygen mask is still my favorite saying in the world because it's such a great way of sort of thinking about any situation, not just parenting, but in friendships and relationships. There's that whole need of being your own, taking care of yourself first, which is something that I know a lot of us do not do. So this leads us into the next part of our show, which is the open mic. Now, this gives you a chance to sort of talk about something that we didn't get to mention throughout the show, or maybe a piece of work that you're wanting to promote as well. So in the last minute or so, I'd love to give you the floor and share what's on your mind for us today.
Oh, I think from a broader perspective, just if you or someone that you love, you recognize that they're going through changes or there are some concerns you have, please reach out. Let them know you care for them. Get them the help, or if it's yourself, get the help that you need. The depression that we've talked about is highly treatable. There's wonderful therapeutic modalities such as cognitive behavioral therapy that has been shown to be very effective. There's medications that have been shown to be effective. So please get the help so you can enjoy and be able to cope with what's going on in life. And my own interest, I'm currently working on some research, and I'm very interested in anger and aggression in youth. And I'm currently working on another book. So I enjoy writing. That is a passion of mine that does not feel like work. So when you find what you love to do, it doesn't feel like work, even though you are working. Actually, when I don't give time to the things that fill my bucket, then I actually don't feel my best. I don't feel that I'm meeting what I'm supposed to be doing. So making sure that you pay attention to the things that you do in life and how they make you feel. And so between writing and doing some, getting ready to start a research project with play therapy and anger and aggression, and teaching, have a lot of things. You can go to my website and be on top of what I'm writing and what I'm doing. It's raychellecassadalohmann.com. And that's a great way that you can see the different books that I've written and things that I've done.
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that. And honestly, can't wait to sort of see how anger fits in with play therapy. I think that's such a great study to sort of look into, especially when it comes to adolescents as well. I mean, we talk about play therapy, and I've had that spoken on the show a little bit. It's so much more than just playing with toys. So it's really interesting research to look into play therapy. So I can't wait to sort of hopefully maybe get to see it very soon. Thank you so much, Rachel, for joining me on the show today and for sharing a lot about depression and hopefully getting a lot of different perspectives as to how parents sort of go through it, because we neglect to sort of talk about parents dealing with depression. So I'm really glad that we got to have this conversation today. And definitely, I'll have the links to your website and also Psychology Today down in the description box if anyone is interested in knowing a little bit more or finding a little bit more about Rachel's work. So thank you so much again for joining me on the show today. It was amazing having you.
Thank you, Dina. Thank you for having me.
And I hope everyone has learned as much as I have, and probably hopefully a lot more than I have, in how depression really works and also how effective it is within parents as well, how effective it is in parents. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next episode. You've been listening to Raising Parents, the Parenting Science Insights podcast, produced by the Parenting Science Labs, a division of LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. More episodes are available from 10 life management perspectives and can be found by searching LMSL on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and other podcasting apps available on your devices. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider rating our show, sharing it, and subscribing to our channel, as it helps other people find it so that we can grow and bring you more quality resources. More of our work can be found on our website at pa.lmsl.net, where you can join our movement. I'm Dina Sargeant. Thanks for tuning in.